Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Multi-Hyphenate. This is your bite-sized weekly podcast dedicated to those of us who have multiple interests and passions. How do we get through it all? How do we navigate life? I'm your host, Crystal Henry. Let's get started. Well, first, we do need to recap episode 3 because this is episode 2, and we had a multi-hyphenate move of the week, and that was to check in with at least one person. And if you need to go back to listen to that again, go do yourself a favor, go watch it, go listen to it. But it was all about networking, and the challenge was to reach out to at least one person. That could be electronically. Maybe you appropriately slide into those DMs. Maybe you call them, maybe you text them. Did you do it? Yes, I'm going to give you an uncomfortable pause too so that you can ask yourself. I did, okay? I told you. I'm doing this right along with you. I contacted someone that I am connected with in a professional network about a potential collaboration for us to enter into this donation around Mother's Day. She said yes. I now have a task to follow up with, but I did that. So if you have not gone back to connect with at least one person, please go and do it. Moving on to today's topic, which is all about organization. All right. Bite-sized balance. That's the name of the episode. So how do you navigate organization and time management? So here's a question for you. How do you eat an elephant? The first time somebody ever asked me that, I literally pictured a fork and a knife in my head, and I thought, why in the world would I ever think about eating an elephant? But they said one bite at a time. And that was supposed to be the metaphor for how do you approach large topics, large tasks, large ideas, large anything. You have to chunk it down and make it bite-sized. So I said, okay, cool. Now, let's make that connection between eating an elephant figuratively and being a multi-hyphenate. It is about how do we navigate the organization because the plate is full. And how do we tackle that? One bite, one piece, one chunk at a time. Because even though our life is full, it also is fulfilling, right? But it can also run the risk of being overwhelming. And that is what I have definitely struggled with, as I know many other multi-hyphenates have. So how do we manage it without burning out? I had to even look up the term multitasking because I thought, what in the world does this mean? And I guess Webster's or Googly Dictionary definition says it is about splitting your attention between multiple tasks all at the same time. You may think it leads to efficiency, but in the end, it actually does lead to a lower level of productivity and more stress. Even though I looked up this definition, I must admit I did not become a multitasker until about 2003. And at that time, oh my goodness, that was 22 years ago. And I learned about this based on one job that I had. And the particular person that I was working with and working under at the time is a serial multitasker. All right. This is somebody who would be typing in a meeting with a room full of other people. Maybe a text comes through, they're responding to the text, they are completing different tasks, all while attempting to be present with all of these different entities or things. And that habit rubbed off on me. And what happened is that I began to conduct myself in the same way, feeling that I could be productive and give full and equal attention to all the things while I was doing all the things. And undoubtedly, I missed something that somebody said in a meeting, or I forgot to respond to a text, or I forgot what I was working on, but I still kept doing it. And not only did I do it in the professional world, but I approached my multi-hyphenate excursions in life in that way. I even approached my personal life in that way. And in many ways, I still do, okay? But it is kind of a shiny object syndrome thing for me, where whatever is popping off at the moment, that's what kind of gets my attention. But it comes with a lot of different risks. And I can think about even at home when it comes to chores. And if I try to multitask everything, that means that I'm cooking dinner as I'm washing dishes, as I'm throwing a load of clothes in the washing machine. Now, some people might say, girl, you being efficient. You're getting all the things done. But dinner's going to burn just like it did last night. And maybe I forgot to put the fabric softener in the washing machine, or maybe I'm really not washing the dishes too well. Like, all of these things can happen, but it is about how do I stay organized with all of these different things to do. Being a multi-hyphenate, my attention is being pulled in a lot of different ways. Organization is the key. So bite-sized balance. How do we do it all? Okay. One of the pitfalls to not having an organizational system definitely is going to be overwhelmed. You're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to look at all of the things on your to-do list and say, man, I don't really know how I'm going to get all of this done. This seems pretty impossible. This is just not going to work for me, because the elephant is just going to be way too big for you. Next, you can experience burnout. I think we've all been there before, where you feel like, I just cannot do it. I'm tapped out of all of these different things. This is completely not possible for me to do. And you just check out of all of those activities, all of those responsibilities, all of the tasks. They just don't get done. All right. Chaos. The elephant begins to eat you, where all of these unfinished tasks are sitting around and lying around. And instead of you attacking them and eating them, they begin to eat you. And the final thing I thought about that can happen when you don't have a system in place for organization and time management is that inactivity happens. Nothing gets done. And I've definitely been there, where it's been too many different tasks that need my attention, and I don't know where to start, and I don't know how to organize things, and absolutely nothing gets done. That's where laptop shuts on a Monday, on a Tuesday, pick a day of the week. And that happens, and that does not help me to get it done. We're talking about being people who have multiple interests, passions, skills, talents, abilities. That means that we've got a lot of things to do. In a typical day, right? So since we want to be honest, in a typical day, and let's just take a Tuesday. Let's just take a Tuesday. What does a Tuesday look like for me? And think about what your average Tuesday might look like when it comes to this multi-hyphenate life. I start my morning with devotional and prayer. I then go see my trainer on Tuesdays. I then come back and I get into looking at what my day says that I need to get accomplished. I then look at, well, what do I need to do tomorrow? What can I push to be the next, and what can I push to be later versus what needs to happen now? I'm then responding to and checking 5 different email accounts. 5 email accounts that you need to dump stuff, trash it. I need to respond to things. I need to send different emails. So that takes up a little bit of time. I am also design stationery and greeting cards. I spend a chunk of time each day designing, and I also update websites. I also package orders. I've got to get to the post office. I then have to turn my focus over into social media planning and posting for 3 different accounts. Okay. And then we haven't even gotten back into the stationery part, where it's sending pitch emails. It's following up with potential stockists. And then this is just for me. Then we turn the attention over into my home, because my my office is at home. I then have things to take care of in my house. On a typical Tuesday, I am prepping dinner a little bit early or cooking it a little bit later. I pick up my son. He doesn't have activities on Tuesday. So thankfully, nothing on Tuesdays. But then it's dinner, then it's family time, and then it's still going back to some of those unfinished tasks. That's a lot in a Tuesday where my attention is being pulled in multiple ways while I'm driving, while I'm sitting and working, while I'm cooking, while I'm doing any number of things. How do I stay organized? I don't always get it right. And sometimes I fail miserably with the organization. But we're going to go through 5 points, okay? I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to give you the 3 points according to, homiletics or whatever they call it, okay? But I'm going to give you 5. So first one is to, when you think about eating that elephant and all the different tasks that you have to get accomplished, is to really chunk it down. All right. Breaking them down into bite-sized, smaller tasks to get it done. And that way it makes me feel like it's a little bit more doable. For instance, I am my own social media manager for the podcast page, for the stationery page, for my personal page. And I have a plan. I have a calendar that I create to be able to look at and say, this is what I'm going to do. Instead of me always approaching maybe a Tuesday and saying, I need to plan out every single Tuesday or the next 3 weeks. Maybe if all I have space for that day is to plan out Tuesday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say, I'm going to write the caption. I already know what the photo or the video for the reel is. I'm just going to write the caption. Boom, I've got that done. And then maybe I come back and I finish out the other piece of it. But I have to be able to chunk some things down if I'm not able to get to it all at one particular time. Second thing that really helps me out is to write it down. Literally, write it down. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, that studies do show that when you write things down, it has a better chance of actually freeing up brain space for you, but it also helps you to feel, to be more connected to whatever it is that you write down. And it helps you to have something to check off. It feels really good to be able to say, all right, I've got these 5 things I need to do. Boom, I've done it. Boom, I've done it. And then check, check, check. And I've been able to check off those 5 things. And it gives me something to see, because I keep a lot of things in my brain, but I also need to write it down. I keep a lot of things in my online calendars. I also keep a whole lot of Post-it notes on my desk, because that actually helps me. Think about it in terms of a grocery list. If I don't write down my grocery list, I am always 1000% going to forget something. But when I write it down, stick that bad boy in my pocket, it works. It doesn't even work when I have it on my phone, but for some reason it works for me to write it down. So third thing that can help with organization and keeping things in order is to use a calendar. When I was working with students and working with with high school seniors who were preparing to go to college, I urged them, and for some of them, I made them right in front of me put due dates inside of the calendars on their phone. Many people don't utilize the calendar. Many multi-hyphenates don't utilize their calendars on these expensive devices that we carry with us 24/7. Stick it on your calendar. Don't rely on your brain to help you to remember all of these different things, but put it on a calendar. Some people have to put a reminder a day ahead, 30 minutes before, an hour before. Maybe you have multiple calendars, but get it on a calendar and develop some kind of system that works for you to be able to stay organized. This is about organization, not about being structured like you are in the military. But if you expect to get things accomplished, to keep the ball moving in this multi-hyphenate life, organization is going to have to be a part of your system. I urge you to do that. Next thing, last thing, actually, it's 4 points, not five. But it's to minimize distractions. Okay. I talked about that shiny object syndrome. It's not a diagnosis. It's not in the, what is it now? The DSM 4. It's not there. But minimizing distractions looks like not being pulled and swayed by all of the different things that are around you. You may have to literally think, okay, if I am working on something right now, if I'm working on moving the needle, rolling the ball, I have to act like I have blinders on. And for some people, that means that they have to be very cognizant of what their surroundings are, what their settings are, what their settings are. And that can look like you being aware of what your scents are in your room. If something is a distraction for you for your scent, that can throw you off, right? If maybe you're somebody who cannot work to any kind of sound, including music or TV, or maybe you need it. I have to have some kind of music in the background, but I can't work with TV because that's too much of a distraction. Are you somebody that needs a snack or doesn't need a snack? Like all of these things, think about what is going to be a distraction and minimize those things for yourself. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. I hate to admit it, but I am actually new to the Do Not Disturb crew. And for years, I never used that feature on my phone. For all the years I have owned only iPhones, I have never until 2025 actually used Do Not Disturb. And oddly enough, I was playing on my phone one day and accidentally turned it on. And then I was pulled to something else and forgot how to turn it off. So for about a month, my phone was on Do Not Disturb. We're on the focus setting Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And it was so funny that whatever I did, I set that, but that was actually a good time for me to have my phone on Do Not Disturb because I was getting a lot of text messages or calls or the group chats popping off at that time, and it worked out a whole lot better for me. So now I intentionally have it on Do Not Disturb at different points of the day, and I get a kick out of people saying, Crystal has silenced her phone, probably on their end, but it works for me. All right. So being aware of how do you minimize distractions so that you can eat that elephant one bite at a time. All right. Because our plates are full and you are not going to likely end your time as being a multi-hyphenate, somebody who has these multiple passions and interests and skills. While you're there and while this is your life, how do you stay organized? That's a question I definitely want you to be thinking about and trying out. Here's our quote for the week. All right. And this is being dropped on a Monday. I don't know if you might listen or watch this for on another day of the week, but however you do it, think about this quote. And I got this one from Arthur Ashe. And the quote says, "One important key to success is self-confidence. An important key to self-confidence is preparation." And I said, "Oh, Arthur, that was kind of deep." But it really broke down the point that preparation is your foundation. And then self-confidence really comes from being organized. If I have a bunch of chaos, then again, I'm going to be led to feeling burned out, overwhelmed. I'm going to be led to inactivity. And therefore, my confidence is probably going to be in the toilet. But if I'm organized, then I'm able to check off things off those lists. And then that helps to boost my confidence. And it also is connected to that idea of time management, because when we're able to really allocate our time efficiently and strategically, that gives us time to be able to prepare and to plan and to check things off of the list. So again, one important key to success is self-confidence. An important key to self-confidence is preparation. Thank you, Arthur Ashe. Now, before we leave, here's our multi-hyphenate move of the week. I didn't get too much into the time management piece, talked more about organization, but here is a phenomenal time management technique. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. And if you are a foodie or if you cook, then that word Pomodoro means tomato. But this technique came from a young man who was a college student in the 1980s, but he used a kitchen timer that was shaped like a tomato. And he set it at 25-minute intervals called Pomodoros, and then he got his tasks done. And I learned about this technique I don't know, a while ago, several years ago, accidentally some kind of way, but I have now adopted it and adapted it to be able to work for me. And I work in chunks. I have times set up on my phone, already locked in to one of those pages on the time, on the clock app on my phone. And I have 10-minute, 15-minute, 20 and 25-minute intervals. And depending on what I'm doing and what I need to get accomplished, I set one of those timers. I even take it a step further and use this technique when I am completing household chores. Because truth be told, I could take too long cleaning my bathroom. I could get distracted doing something when I'm supposed to be changing my sheets, and I get distracted by something in my closet. So again, I set these timers because I don't want to be all day doing things. And at the end of these chunks, you give yourself a break. All right. You can give yourself a 5-minute break, and then you set it on a cycle. Another example, when I am in the middle of designing stationery, I'm finishing up Mother's Day designs now. I'm working in 25-minute chunks. I work in 4 of them. And on a little Post-it note, I have 25 written 4 times. I work in one 25-minute chunk, check it off, give myself a 5-minute break. Once I complete all 4 of those, I get a longer, maybe 15 to 30-minute break. So your move of the week is to try the Pomodoro technique with something. And you can even do 15, 20, 25-minute chunks and see how that works for you. You can get a lot more accomplished working in these chunks over the course of a day than you would at working on one thing all day long with no kind of parameters around it. Okay. So that wraps us up for this 3rd episode of Confessions of a Multi-Hyphenate, all about bite-sized balance. And I appreciate you tuning in this week. And I encourage you to try that multi-hyphenate move of the week. Again, this is all about progression and not perfection. And you might need a redo. You might have a hiccup with implementing the move or with really taking a stab at fine-tuning your organization, but I know that you can do that. And before you leave, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, give me those stars, write a review, give some feedback, and share this with a friend. And I'll see you all next week. See ya.